Hello, this is Dr. Jeff Kim, and I thought I would go ahead and share a little bit of my lesson design around my story of resilience and ethnography. I just love this activity because students have an opportunity to know their story, tell their story, listen to each other's story with empathy and respect, and do something good with their own story. I like to actually do this activity toward the beginning of the school year because it's an opportunity to build community, and oftentimes it later connects to not only amplifying student voice, but taking compassionate action. But I like to think it begins a little bit with the student. And so I have this quote here that I reflected upon. In order for the tree to grow tall, you have to know your roots. So I'm going to go down here, and you can see that I've broken up the lesson into a variety of different parts. I have the driving question, the goal, the introduction, the 5 C's connection, approximate time, instructions, some more detailed information on what can happen with each of the slides, the questions in a more simplistic format, how in the future they might be adding additional slides to that story of resilience in the Korean American Studies course, a possible template for instructions in eCadence, and additional questions. So you can see this is a Google Doc. I like having a format to lesson design that allows me to share easily as well as edit quickly. And then from here, I can copy, cut, paste whatever I want into whichever LMS I'm in. We're using eCadence in Anaheim Union High School District. And so, I like to begin with the driving question. I'm going to go over each one detail step by step now. So I like going over the driving question because I like kind of creating a situation where the students have a problem to solve, and I'm there to help them to solve that problem. So the driving question is, how can I create a digital resilience journal that tells my story? So maybe that's a question that they have, and I'm going to support them with that question. I got the idea of a driving question from Project-Based Learning Buck Institute. So this is a wonderful approach to teach project-based learning and module-based learning. And you'll see me do that as we move from module to module. The next, you got the goal. The goal is to help students know, tell, listen, do something good with their story. To begin with their story, each student will create a 10-slide My Story Resilience digital journal that will serve as a primary source document for future generations. So the driving question is a little bit esoteric, not what does that mean to create a story? But here you're saying, okay, 10 slides. That's what we're talking about. Might have a little introduction. Of course, there's in-person instruction that I might provide, and so I might not even read this in class, but I have it written down just, I guess, here as well. And I want to remind students that rather than doing this assignment for me, to do it for you. And this is a step from becoming a history scholar to becoming a history maker, because through this activity, their story of resilience, they're actually looking at their stories and kind of creating history, if you think about it, and then telling his stories and her stories. And then I hope the assignment's also connecting them to their identity, purpose, passion, interests as well beyond the course of this, the purpose of this assignment for this course. I also like to add in Anaheim Union High School District, we have the 5 C's and a focus on the 5 C's. So I say, hey, for this resilience journal, no doubt they're going to be focusing on all the C's, but you can see here that my hope is that they're going to focus in on critical thinking and then describe that critical thinking in a creative way. I put a quote there from Jack O'Connell, who was previous California State Superintendent. In any one of California's thousands of classrooms, we could have future workers with the ability to understand dozens of different cultures and with the wherewithal to communicate and connect with people all over the world in terms that they can understand. So seeing the asset-based nature of our color-blessed country, but especially our color-blessed state and county and schools, where this is a total asset for the students if they have the opportunity to know their story and tell their story. I'm thinking maybe this is going to take about 2 weeks, 2 school weeks, 10 days, 1 slide per day. And then there's going to be kind of a CVA. C stands for create their slides. So that the step 1 would be kind of like creating their slides. V stands for adding their voice through screencast recording. I'm using Google Meet recording right now, but I oftentimes use Screencastify as well. And then lastly, affirmation, where they are affirming each other and then formally affirming each other again. So that's the brief instructions, but you can see I have more detailed instructions here. For example, on the left-hand side, this is the pre-step, is you need to copy the template. So rather than beginning with Google Slides with no information, if I were to click on this template here, there'd be a really nice template to look at that goes over the 10 things that are in this slide. It was actually created by a student, and then now we're using this template. And once again, students don't have to use it, but they can as a scaffold and a support to them if they would like. Also, I have other students in the past who've done a wonderful job. And so you can see their student samples here. They're exemplary student samples, which you could also use to tell that story as well. So for slide 1, they're adding their My Introduction story, and that was actually the first module, the My Introduction module. So they're actually not having to do anything extra for this first module because they did it already. You can see on the right-hand side, there's these YouTube vlogs, and those are basically support materials in case they would like additional information to give them inspiration for their own personal slide. So in this case, it's a mashup example of many other people's My Stories so that they can get inspiration to create their own. The second slide is, what does your name mean? And so I actually talk a little bit about the story behind my name, and then maybe that gives them inspiration for theirs. In slide 3, I talk about, in my vlogs, a family tree experience that I had, and also another student who had a family tree experience, but it wasn't of someone who was their shared blood, just to be sensitive to those who have a support tree but may not be their family members. So they're creating that tree. Slide 4 is what would you say are some of the differences and similarities between your generations? And that's why I had the questions below. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down a little bit fast here. And you can see like, oh, here's some questions on childhood and upbringing, technology, work and career, relationships, values, entertainment, health. So this is actually a future scaffold for maybe an oral history project, but you can see there that I wanted them to just do more than say, oh, I use cell phones and my parents didn't. I want to have it be deeper than that. Slide 7 is already using some of the assets that they already know about themselves through the Thrively personality test that students take in our district as a way to kind of think about their own strengths, and then they write about that. I also will remind them during this time, like, hey, this could be very much connected to your college application. And so what you do for my class is very similar to a college application that you'll be writing later too. In fact, I tell them, like, if you want to change my question and make it your question, a question for a scholarship or a college application, like directly, feel free to change my questions and add your question. I'm okay with that. So even the 10 slides are somewhat negotiable to what the students would find valuable to themselves, but I just want to have something ready for them to go with. Slide 8 is how they plan to contribute and make America and the world a better place with their strengths, interests, and passions. Slide 9 is a dedication slide, and I provide 2 examples of students giving their dedication to their parents or their support person. And I think it's important for students to see these kinds of examples because then they're going to reflect on their own experience of how they plan to do the same as well. We got the 5 C's reflection as well. Of course, in Anaheim, we're constantly thinking about our 5 C's. And in that, they'll write a little description of their project and how that project helped them grow in that particular C and how they see that skill helping them in their future college, high school, college, and future. Now, could I have made this more than 10 slides? Absolutely. And you know, I'm actually kind of playing the right idea, playing with the idea of a My History timeline. So that's a possibility as well. And then, you know, you can see over here, I just got the 10 questions, and sometimes it's, you know, all that you saw that little chart up there. There's like a lot. There's like these links. Everything is not super simple, right? So sometimes this is enough. This is enough to, you know, make it clear what it is that we're doing. Going down over here, you can see that in the future, we may add additional slides. So while we are going to finish this My Story of Resilience and Ethnography in about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks if you add the screencast and some reflection, then in the future upcoming modules, they can also reflect back to their story of resilience and add to it like a slide. For example, maybe they're going to do that after the cast story module, or the photo voice, or the feelings vlog module, or the oral history, or the common apps module, or the children's history book module, or the podcast module, or the Sylvia Mendez module, or the burning of Chinatown module, the Japanese American experience module, Fierce and Fearless like Patsy Meek. There's just so many different modules that I've done here in the past, some that I have done, some that I have not done, that they can add to their story of resilience as well. So even though those are separate modules, it can connect to this foundational module on you know, knowing their own story. You know, I thought I did have my rubric on this page, but I don't. But I do have a rubric that I like to use usually talks about some of the things that we're wanting to see highlighted. Students oftentimes help with the creation of that rubric, and then when we do the work, the students are oftentimes self-assessing themselves on where they're at so they can improve themselves, their peers can support them, and also, of course, so that I can give them feedback as well. So a question was asked, how do you design these lessons, these modules? Like, what's my thinking behind, my planning behind something like this? So you can see a little bit of what I've done. We got, once again, the driving question, the goal, the introduction, the 5 C's connection, some instructions, some very specific procedures, and some other ideas that I might have ready to go if I need to pivot in different directions. And then I don't see the rubric here, but I usually have the rubric here as well. All right, so I hope that's helpful for you when you design your lessons as well.